Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shekirishanu mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. La'asok b'divrei Torah, la'asok b'divrei Torah. La'asok b'divrei Torah, la'asok b'divrei Torah. I'll pass around the charity box. Someone needs to make sure they take it at the end. All right, so Jewish mysticism. Okay, we're done. Jewish mysticism. Either you heard and you got it, or you missed out. Sorry. Okay, Jewish
It's very
mysticism.
mystical. I'm sorry.
Either you got it, or you know. From the beginning of Judaism, Judaism is a mystical path. It is a mystical monism. We are not monotheistic. That is a misnomer. Monotheism means that you have one God that is separate from yourself. Monism is actually everything is part of that one God. We are actually monistic. In many ways, we're more similar to indigenous cultures than we are to Western cultures, because we are an indigenous culture. So from the beginning of, let's back up. People talk about Kabbalah. Like, okay, I'm studying Kabbalah. Kabbalah is a specific term. It comes from the Hebrew word lekabel. You guys were on opposite sides last time, so I'm just, it's okay. I'll just teach you basic.
Yeah, I keep moving around.
So it comes from the Hebrew word lekabel, which means to receive. The idea is that it's already all there. We just have to open our hands as opposed to keeping closed hands. Before we start, these are some of the books that I would recommend on Jewish mysticism. This is the best book written on Jewish meditation ever written.
Really?
Called Jewish Meditation by Rabbi Barclay. Let's pass that around. This is a much more. Kaplan was an amazing author and translator. I actually studied with the scribe, that client. But this is an amazing piece called Meditation in Kabbalah. It has a lot of different things in it about different meditations and Jewish mystical traditions. This is one of the primary texts of Jewish mysticism. This is called Sefer Yetzirah. They translate it as the book of creation. It's actually the book of formation. Yeah.
Before we get into these books, is there a pre-book that we should?
Jewish meditation. Okay. That is the book. Okay. Yeah. That really is the book. This is Sefer Yetzirah. This is one of the primary texts understanding Jewish mysticism. It goes back 2,000 years, give or take a week. This is the other one. That's the primary text of Judaism, Jewish mysticism, until the publication of the Zohar, which is arguably written in the Middle Ages or written 2,000 years ago. We're not sure, but this is again 2,000 years ago. This is from it's attributed to Rabbi Nehemiah ben Hakana from the 1st century. This is Bahir. This is another primary text. When you're studying Jewish mysticism, you're studying Torah, Tanakh, Talmud, and this, and what people have derived from that. This is an amazing book about how everything comes out of the Hebrew letters. The Wisdom of the Hebrew Alphabet is a fabulous book. It is the idea of understanding that the letters themselves are more than people realize. Okay, we're not going to go into Jewish astrology yet, but we may later on, not tonight. So that's a phenomenal book. So I recommend all of those. This, however, is written as an introductory book in some ways, and it goes into some deep techniques. It's very much written for the person who's just exploring this. Kaplan died at the age of 48. Really? And again, what he published was volumes and volumes. This guy was prolific, and it's wonderful stuff. So when people talk Kabbalah off the top of their head, when someone says I'm doing Kabbalah, you already know that they really don't know what the hell they're talking about. I'm sorry, with all respect, and that includes to rabbis. They don't understand the history of what we're talking about. So let's go back to the beginning. From the very beginning, as we started in the first week, about Bereshit being that word that opens up. We talked about it last week. From the beginning of the Torah and the Tanakh, Talmud, we have Jewish mysticism. Now, what is Jewish mysticism? Like any mystical tradition, if I go too quick, just stop me, throw something at me, okay? Because I move quickly on this. Jewish mysticism is ultimately about being aware of what we call Yokud. Yokud literally means unification. It's the same term that we use to describe what a bride and groom do when they consummate their wedding. It's the unification. And in Judaism, we have two schools that have always been existed. Maaseh Bereshit, Maaseh Merkabah. Maaseh Bereshit means the workings of creation. How and why did God create the world? Maaseh Merkabah is based on the first chapter of the book of Ezekiel, the workings of the chariot. How and why does God sustain the world? Because those are really the only questions. How and why did God create it? How and why does God keep it around? That's really the only questions. Everything else is frivolous details, right? So we've always had people who are inclined to explore and understand that at a deeper level, and our prayer service is based on that. The Talmud is based on that. And it's so, so important. So we have that. And as part of that, we have a term, we have this wonderful process called Hitbodedut, or if you're from a different accent, Hisbodedus, which is meditation. And the word explains meditation in a lot better way. This is the one you want to start with.
Thank you.
But you can look at all, that's what I want everyone to start. So Hisbodedus, or Hitbodedut, is, the word itself is in binyan hitpa'el. It's a conjugation of the word, and it means that it's self-reflexive. Bod and boded are both the root of this word. One means alone, one means branch. The idea is that we are self-reflexive, so that we are self-reflecting, so that we are aware that we are a branch and alone at the same time. Al's got that look on his face. Okay.
Try again.
From the perspective of my hand, this hand is totally separate. It is alone. But from the perspective of the tree, of me, it's connected. From the perspective of the branch, it's alone. But from a larger perspective, it is simultaneously aware of the leaves and the roots and every other plant in the world, right? So Hisbodedus is creating that simultaneous awareness of how we are both alone and we are connected to all things, and both are true. The experience of it, not just the intellectual understanding. And we understand a lot through the work of Hillel and Newberg, who were really the pioneers in this field about 20, 30 years ago, two neurophysiologists from the University of Pennsylvania. They wrote an amazing book called The Mystical Mind, where they're tracking the brain chemistry. Okay. So, and the brain chemistry, when someone is in a meditative state, in an orgasm, dreaming, on a psychotropic, or in the zone, an athlete in the zone, this is what's become very useful, or anyone in the zone, it's the same basic brain chemistry that's going on. So we vacillate, we alternate between parasympathetic and sympathetic systems, right? Okay? Flight or fight, or relaxation. When we are in what they call an HSA, a heightened state of awareness, or an ultra state of consciousness, both systems shut down. They overflow and shut down, and the hippocampus becomes 400% more active. All of a sudden, this weird thing back here, which for 2,000 years people have taught us also in many cultures, it's connected to our third eye, it becomes 400% more active. Okay? So we can say that that's the neurophysiology of what happens to someone in a heightened state of awareness. But it becomes just a matter of being aware about, this whole idea of the Force from Star Wars. It's probably the best way to try and explain it, if we just kind of get to the essence of that theological understanding. So the idea is to be aware of Yokud, unifying with God. Hisbodedus is the experience of being alone and being connected at the same time. And we have these two schools: how and why did God create the world? How and why does God sustain the world? Now, Rabbi Zalman Schachter Shalomi of blessed memory used to say that there's two types of people who explore this stuff. There's Kabbalists and Kabbalologists. The Kabbalologist can tell you how and what everything goes and where it goes, but the Kabbalist has experienced it, right? And so it's a different thing. So we have these schools. We have people working throughout. It's hidden in our prayer service, right? We talked about two hearts in the Ve'ahavta. We talked about the word Reshit. We talked about God's name. And you can see that kind of that there's black, Yud, He, Vav, and He. It's God's name. So, wait till you see what I draw on top of that. So much of how it's created is in this book, Sefer Yetzirah. And to give you an idea of how intense this book is, a group of rabbis and myself studied together once a week, and it took us, I don't know, somewhere between 6 months and a year just to get through the first chapter. And these are not uneducated men. Okay? It's all men with education. It is serious exploration, especially if it's about the experience, not just the read back. So what happens is, then you get into this guy named that we talked about last week. We get Rabbi Isaac Luria, called Ha'ari. Luria takes all this different stuff and he integrates it together. That becomes known, that is when someone today talks about that they know they're studying Kabbalah, they're talking about Lurianic Kabbalah, right? But that's not the root. What he did is he took all the stuff that we're talking about and he integrated it. What's in Talmud, what's in Torah, what's in Tanakh, what's in Sefer Yetzirah, and Sefer Bahir, and all these things. He integrated what's in our practices, our Siddur, our liturgy. He integrated it together, and in so doing, that became a system, which then became called Kabbalah. When you go to the Kabbalah Center, or you go to explore with 95 or more % of the Chabad rabbis, or you go to what they're teaching is Lurianic Kabbalah. The Jewish mysticism predates all of that. That's why I try very hard to say, I don't teach Kabbalah. Because now you're already taking what someone has experienced and making it into dogma. And that really has no value or purpose for anything. Make sense? Okay. So we're going to go back to earlier places. And then we're going to do some meditation. Because it's only that way that you can really understand some of this stuff. The analogy, depending on the age group that I'm talking to, if I'm talking to children, I'll say, describe vanilla ice cream to someone who's never had it. More specifically, because of the neurochemistry, if I'm talking to adults, I'll say, you try and explain an orgasm. Because it's the same brain chemistry. Okay? How do you explain either of those two things to someone who has no idea? Right? Alien comes down and says, what's this vanilla ice cream? How do you explain? Well, it's cream. What's creamy? It tastes like vanilla. Okay, what's vanilla? If you have no frame of reference, it just becomes dogma. And I don't like dogma in anything at all. All right? So when people are saying, so how many of you have studied at some point a little bit of Kabbalah, Sfirot and things like that? You may have read about it.
I've read it.
Okay, you read about it. And they said, these are the names of this energy center, right? And did you ever say, why? Why is that called that? What's that about?
Never explained it. All they did was give you that diagram and say, here's what they were. And they said, good luck to you.
Okay. And I don't like that. So we're going to study a little bit about Jewish mysticism together, and then we're going to do a little Hisbodedus together, and we're going to look at some things in a very different way. By the way, let's back up. So this is Sefer Yetzirah, 2,000 years old. And it says in the first paragraph, the first chapter, with 32 mystical paths of wisdom engraved Yah. As God engraved 32 mystical paths into the universe. Now tell me what the difference between engraving and printing or writing is. Go on.
I know.
Go.
Printing is just on the surface. And engraving, you have to go into the material and you're creating
a vessel, a pathway.
Right.
You're creating an opening. So if you take the phrase, one of the things is if you take the idea of how did God create the universe, one of the things our sages recognize is this concept. There are only a couple letters that are not repeated a certain amount of time in the first 2 lines of the Torah. And they spell the word tzimtzum. What's tzum? Tzimtzum means to withdraw. So what we teach about is how does God create the universe? How can God create something where God is not there? That makes no sense, right? So what God does is create a salad bowl. He withdraws to create a vacuum and then throws God sparks into that bowl, and then from that comes the world. Everyone with me? This is not easy concept, so you got to like scream at me, right? So God is both separate but part of because He's containing it all. God engraves, so it's making a container, a vessel, 30 facets of wisdom. Engraved Yah, the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, the living God, King of the universe, El Shaddai, merciful and gracious, high and exalted, dwelling in eternity, whose name is holy and is lofty and holy. 10 points. They correspond to the 10 commandments. The 10 times God speaks during the creation of the universe. They correspond to the 10 people that are needed in a minyan. Overlays. And God created His universe with 3 books. I have this right down here. He created the universe with these books. Sfarim, with text, Sefer, with number, Safar, and with communication, Sipur. And so we call those energy centers that He engraves on a macrocosmic and microcosmic level, Sephirot. Okay, it's a combination. The words are the same. So books is Sepharim, text is Sefer, number is Safar, communication is Sipur. We call them Sephirot. They're wheels. They're communication wheels. They're vessels for a specific vibration or energy. With me so far? Now, through a series of understanding different pieces of text and our liturgy, so when the Torah comes out, we'll go, Adonai Hagedula, Hagevora, right? That's actually, from this, we find it, these quotes in Torah, these terms in this order. And there are 3 outside of our body. Now, this is the part, okay, I have a rule. This is you know how Harry Potter had the unbreakable curses, or whatever they are? The unbreakable vows. Oh, no, do you have some solvent? Oh, I don't. Maybe I can get this without knocking off. It's okay. It's fine. So this is one of those unforgivable things that you don't ever do. You don't get to laugh at my art. You can chuckle, you can guffaw, you can snicker, you can snortle, but you cannot laugh outright, okay? So here I have God's name, Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey. You guys see that? In black? Okay, and there you have a human being. He chuckled, he guffawed. There was a guffaw.
More money in the Sudan.
There was a guffaw. It's a guffaw's unacceptable. The human being is also laid over the four-letter name of God, as are these energy centers. Okay? Now, if you take these 10 energy centers, maybe I'll use another one too. Hold on. I'm going to get really, really high tech here. If you take these 10 energy centers, which correspond to the 10 words, nothing else, right? Okay, so there's 10 energy centers, right?
Yeah.
I can connect them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22. I can connect these 10 energy centers in what looks like this image. Oh, this is a better image than me. Okay? This is known as the Jacob's ladder. Where do we see Jacob's ladder? Come on, what's the story of Jacob and the ladder?
Yeah, in the dream.
He goes to sleep and he dreams and he sees angels ascending and descending on a ladder. This is the ladder. The ladder of all creation. You just gave me a look like, nah.
Fascinated.
Okay?
Fascinated.
Now, there's 22 pathways. There are 10 digits for the Sphirot. And guess what? There's 22 Hebrew letters.
Yeah.
And so each pathway, what you see on this book, corresponds to one of the letters. Now, why does this make a difference? Because we are able to use letters meditate with letters on a certain pathway to create physical, mental, emotional, spiritual healing. You think the meridian lines of Chinese acupressure and acupuncture are intense? They're nothing. We got all that. It comes from this book. Okay? Now, you guys are both doctors. So, interesting, isn't it? You're a doctor too. We got 3 doctors. So it's interesting. And because of the kind of work you do, you know there are points that trigger other points, right? This is, okay? We have our own system. Okay? I'm not saying it's better or worse. I'm just saying we have this system. Okay? So why do we call this space, so high tech, you guys are so proud of me. Before it all falls down. It's all going to fall down. Okay, so why do we call this space in the middle Tiferet, which means harmony or balance? Because this is the balance point in our body, isn't it? It's the balance point of that diagram, of that structure, right? It's literally the balance point. If you do a martial art, this is called the hara, right?
Yeah.
I think that's right. So this is your balance point, your solar plexus. It's a harmony place.
We were taught that.
Okay? This right here, we call yesod, which means foundation. Why? Not because physically that's right here, right? That's the Michael Jackson. Woo! So why is it called that? Not because sex is your foundation. That's not why. Which people teach you when you're learning, quote, Kabbalah. It's because if you look at the structure, now I'm going to overlay the 4-letter name of God, right, onto this. So the 4-letter name of God goes. This place right here is the foundation of that architectural structure. Does that make sense? And so with each of these ones, they correspond to verses and other reasons. It's not about dogma, it's to understand where they are. Does that make sense to everyone so far? And yes?
In other words, we really can take dogma and put it aside.
We should always take dogma, put it aside, kick it to the curb, and incinerate it.
Because you can't really understand this if you get locked down into dogma.
No, you cannot. And so there's a great old story. It's actually from another tradition, but it's a Lakota story. I don't know if it was originally Lakota. It's a Lakota Indian story that the people were happy and then the people were unhappy. And so a man who knew medicine, a spiritual elder, went out into the forest and he found a special tree in a special forest and he cut off special branches and made a special fire and he sang special songs and he said special words. And when he came back, the people were happy. And so he did that all of his life. I first heard this from Grandpa Wallace Black. His first elder taught us. And that was all his life. And then he died and the people were unhappy again. So another man who knew of the first man went out to the special forest and found the special tree, but he gathered up any wood. He put it into a fire and he sang songs, some of which were from the first man and some of which he found from his own heart. And there was a tear in his eye and his heart was open. And the people were happy. He died. Another man went out who knew of the special forest, found any old tree, gathered up any old wood, made a fire, said some songs that he came up with, some that were from his predecessors. There was tear in his eye and his heart was open. And the people were happy. And it got to the point where you didn't need this forest or the tree or the wood. You just needed the fire, an open heart, and a tear in your eye. And then the people would be happy. And that's the root of the sweat lodge. So, okay. We easily get stuck in dogma. And dogma doesn't usually help us. Right? We've all experienced that. We're all old enough to have experienced that in our life. That dogma is not something.
It's confining.
And we get dug into it and we believe it, and as opposed to examining it.
Yeah. Right.
So the whole idea is to not do. So let's take an example. And each of these letters corresponds to a different letter, each of these pathways. So if there's an issue going on in one part of the body, then you can work on that energy center or a pathway. Sounds similar to what you do in some ways, right? Everything there's reflexology of the foot, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
You can tap and access to cause pain or to cause healing any organ in the body through the foot, can't you?
Yeah.
Right? And we know that. Everything is connected. Yet we are alone and everything's connected. So I'll give an example that's fun. Tiferet is the place and the harmony, right? Who knows what reflexology testing is? You do, because you do it all the time. So explain reflexology testing. How you would explain it to someone who's never done it.
Well, the innate wisdom of the body knows what it wants, and the base tap into someone else's via muscle testing or any kind of thing, which then basically tells you what the person needs or doesn't need.
Okay, does that make sense to everyone? Okay, so let's give an example. I'm going to borrow you for a sec. Come on up. Take off your watch. Take the pens out of your. All right, so we said that this is the place of harmony, right? Excuse me, I just need to see if it's not for good. No, it's not. It's just, okay. So we said that this is your place of harmony, right? This is what we call Tiferet.
No.
So I'm going to, what I'd like you to do is hold this against your Tiferet with your left arm. Either one, I'm just going to move it. Let's control it. We'll use it. So, and step up a little bit here. And put your arm out, strong. I want you to hold it so I can't press down, okay? That's just testing it, right? You do this every day, don't you? Put the water down. Remember, our harmony place is here. This is one of the main places we connect to the universe. This is left over that has not been used, Cuban coffee mix. So it's coffee grounds with sugar, okay? Which is probably not good for your liver or kidneys. I'd like you to hold that right against the ferret. Okay, put your arm out. Hold it strong.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hold it strong. I'll just use one finger. Let's try the water again.
Your body says no.
Okay, hold it strong. Hold it strong. You don't loosen your wrist. I want you to grab it. Hold it out there. Hold strong.
Yeah. Body wants to water.
Yeah.
He didn't pay me to do this.
The itsy bitsy spider went. Oops, the water's not. Hold it strong.
Yeah.
Because this is where it comes together with harmony. Put some water back in because always end with something. Okay, we know that water is better for you than coffee and sugar. That's not even a question, right? This center pillar, what we call the caterpillar of the crown. Okay, why do we wear head covering? To remember that this is a place that God connects us. This is a main place that we connect to the universe. But we could also take off the glasses for a moment, please. Okay, I would like Alan, come here, please. I can't actually. It's too big of a difference here. It's not going to matter. So hold your arm out strong. No, just one arm. Hold it strong. Hold it strong.
That's amazing.
Do you want to test it with somebody so you can see this?
How about somebody else come up here?
Go
And they can feel it.
Alan, come here. And we'll let you test it. Come here. Come on. Now, why do we take your watch off? Because a watch is a construct of time. Time is an artificial construct. It's not real.
Right.
We all know that's okay. Come on, take off your phone.
Going too.
Okay. Well, now take off your shirt and your pants and go dance for Carolyn, okay?
On top of the table.
There you go. On the table. We can throw up the video. We can okay. Hold the water up to your ferret. Put your arm up. Feel how strong it is. Because you were just tested. Feel how strong it is. Okay. Put it down.
It's smart.
Put the water back. You'll find the water will make you strong again. Switch. Switch. Oh, we just have to take a step left.
Pretty cool, huh?
That's wild.
I'm not even impressed.
Now,
Not there.
so there's a connection. Sit.
The coffee is.
Now, no. It gets better. It's even when we're not aware, because maybe it's psychological. Can I borrow your pen and paper? You come up here. Lara, come up here.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Double blind. We always love double blind.
What's happening? I'm like scared.
One S or two S's?
Two.
One L or two?
One.
Tell me.
I don't know the name because I don't remember.
Okay.
I was very little.
Oh, no. My son.
Oh my gosh.
No. Okay.
You gonna do the magic castle next week?
I already broke a sweat. Oh my gosh.
I'll be here all week. Try the nachos.
The rabbi said it's gonna get better than the last one.
I didn't say it was going to get better. It's going to get more freaky. That's all. Let's first of all get you balanced. Some water. Hold the water there. Put your arm. Put your arm. Hold yourself strong. Okay. Put the water down. Hold the coffee. Put your arm out. Hold it strong. Hold it. Put it out there. Hold it strong. Okay. We're going to try that again. Put the water in.
I know.
Hold it strong. Okay. Okay. You with me? Put this against there. Hold it strong.
Huh.
Put this against there. Hold it strong. Give me a piece. This was the strong one. This was the weak one. You look first of all.
Oh yeah.
But you did not know which paper was
No,
which paper.
but this was very weird.
Okay.
Wish we could have kept it simple.
We knew this to be true. On the one where she's strong is him. On the one that was weak was someone she had worked with who ended up causing challenges in her life. Doesn't even know, and it affected her.
Hmm.
Okay, so now we're gonna get to another step. Just up.
Can I go now?
You go there. Back up here. You take off your glasses. Now, why am I doing this? So you understand when we talk about harmony, it's the place we harmonize with the universe. It's not a parlor trick. This isn't about, oh, isn't that cool? This is the exact opposite. It's to understand how we connect with the universe and how we can fix that connection and how we can change it and how we can balance and how when something's out of balance, it affects us. Hold the water strong, please. Arm up. Hold it strong. Don't put your fist too touch. Hold it strong. And we can really hear that inside yourself. Actually, put your arm down. We can really hear that inside yourself. You're saying it over and over to yourself. You know? Hold it strong. Coffee didn't matter, did it just now?
No.
This caused weakness, but something he did counteracted that. He harmonized the universe, not was at the effect, but was at the effect. Tell them what you did.
Pray to God.
Specifically, what did you do?
Shema Yisrael. So is this what I'm supposed to be doing when I plant tefillin?
What you are doing when you put on tefillin. Go ahead, actually, just
But I don't go deeper the way I did when you did it with me right now.
And Kavanah and Tefillah, there's no intention, the prayer is not real. What you need to understand, this is yours, Alan. What you need to understand and what is so important, and what has saved our people, is the fact that when we have Kavanah and we are connected with God, it doesn't matter what's going on in the world. I put something that is toxic for your body, that you had already known was toxic for your body, but through your kavanah, your intention, it didn't affect you. You were no longer at the effect, you were affected. Do you guys realize how powerful that is as an understanding? This is not for a parlor trick. This is to understand how powerful. When Kellen understands, it's so powerful. And excuse the expression, we piss on it.
We take it for granted. We take it for granted.
At least when I was taught, this is almost heresy to think that you affect God or the universe in that way, not the other way around.
No,
Yeah, this is
We are in
where
partnership with God. There,
no.
Exactly, I agree. That's what I'm saying.
that is what Judaism teaches. We are in partnership with God, period.
And no
This
one
is what
said
faith
that
is
no
all
rabbi
about.
that
Well,
I've-
again, look, I'm lying a lot, but I'm just telling you, that's our Torah, our text. Why does God create the world? Because God needs us as much as we need God. That's why we have Kiddush wine every week. God makes the grapes, but he needs our effort to make wine. We need God's grapes to make the wine. It's partnership.
That's a covenant.
A covenant is a shared deal, right? We are in part, and so absolutely, we are. God says he's going to protect us, right? That's right there in Torah. As long as we are true. If we're not, and we're disconnected, and the Shema becomes Shema. There's a great story. There's a girl, and when she's a little girl, her grandma dies, and her grandma leaves her a locket, and this is a very special necklace, and so she keeps it every day, and she keeps it on her, and then she starts going to school. She doesn't keep it on her, but she keeps it in a very sacred, special place, and every morning and every evening and every afternoon when she can, she looks at it, she remembers grandma. So now she's 15 years old, 16, 14, whatever, and her time is no longer necessarily her kavanah, her intention is no longer where it once was. And one day she wakes up and she screams. Mother comes running in. What's wrong, sweetheart? And she says, I can't find my necklace. Father hears this. He goes, you guys will find it. I'm going to work. So the mother helps her. They spend hours. They don't find the necklace. The father comes home. And he's still found it. He tears apart the room and he still can't find it. So the little girl says, I know who can help me find it. Let's get the rabbi. Okay. Father says, the rabbi, he can't find his shoes by his bed in the dark. What the hell is he going to find? So what does he do? They call the rabbi. The rabbi comes. So what's the problem? And she says, we lost my necklace. And the rabbi says, you had to let your father come and tear apart your room? I said, how'd you know I do it? Shut! Only a man could have made such a mess. Okay. He says, you let him take your room? Okay. The girl, here's what I want you to do. Do you remember when you used to go to religious school, how I taught you to say the Shema? She goes, of course. He goes, I want you to say the Shema. So she gets up. Shema Yisrael Adonai Elohim Rabbi says, that's not right. And the father goes, what do you mean that's not right? Shah! Okay. Do it again. Do it right. Shema Yisrael Adonai Elohim Echad. It's not right. So what did I teach you about the Shema? What did I tell you? I need to listen. This is Shema. Shema Yisrael Adonai King Adonai Echad. I know where my necklace is. She walks over. She picks up a pillowcase. Fold it underneath the pillow. She reaches out and she pulls out her necklace. We have these kids get a bar and bat mitzvah and they think that the most important part is to read the Torah. You know what? You're 6 years old in Israel. You can read the Torah. No big shake. You just learn another language. The big shake is, let me hear your Devar Torah. Let's work on the Devar Torah. Let's work on the speech. Your interpretation of the word of Torah. Your understanding of God's word. We just went through his sons, right? And he spent a long time on that speech, didn't he? And it was beautiful.
Awesome.
And I actually work with the kids. I do not with the parents who get involved. As stress-filled as the kids with parents may be. So we work it out. And we want that. His insights were about from his neshama, from his soul. Yet we forget that, don't we? Hitbodedut or hisbodedus are the techniques involved in order to be able to understand and experience a kavanah, an intention, an ability, so that everything in life, our words of our prayers, everything has a meaning. And our prayer book is designed in order to achieve that altered state of consciousness with the participant. We talked about in that liturgy class. our prayer book, what do I not use? Okay, our prayer book is designed for this Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey. Okay? We call these the four worlds. Bottom one, Asiyah, which means physical, making. That's the bottom Hey. We call the Vav, Yetzirah, formation. We call the first Hey, Bria, creation. We call the Yud, Atzilut, emanation. And if you look at a Torah, the Yud itself actually looks like this. It's got this little tiny point, and it's called the infinitesimally small point is called the Quds of the Yud. The infinitesimally small point is God touching man, is man touching God. I think this book might have a picture of it that I can show. Okay, so if you look at a Yud, see how on the Yud, there's that little tiny spot, that's what a Yud looks like in Torah. Okay? So that small, infinitesimally small part is a part of, it's like the Sistine Chapel. Is it God touching Adam, Adam touching God, or is it space? That's what we call the Quds of the Yud, Adam Kadmon. So everything that you're going to see in Judaism, our services, everything's 4 plus 1. How many cups of wine are there in a Passover Seder? No, there's 4 plus 1. There's 4 that we drink, and then there's Elijah.
Right.
How many questions are there in a Passover Seder? 4 plus 1. There's 4 questions, but before we have the 4 questions, we have this question: why is this night different from all others? How many children in a Passover Seder? 4 plus 1. The 4 children: the wise, the wicked, the simple, the one able to inquire. And then a traditional Haggadah's got a big blank space. And so the one who doesn't even know Passover exists. It's 4 plus 1. How many parts of the service, of our daily morning service? 4 plus 1. The first part are blessings that are all physical. Second part are blessings that are physical with a little spiritual. The third part is spiritual with a little physical. Fourth part, the Amidah, is purely spiritual. And then 3 days a week, we have Torah service, which is and it's all based on this 4-letter name. So if you don't understand that, then it's all just dogma. Does that make sense? Why do we have these blessings in this order? Why are we saying the Amidah here as opposed to the blessing for going to the bathroom down here? Because the blessing for going to the bathroom is purely physical. The Amidah is purely spiritual, which is why when we say the Avodah Gevorot, the Amidah prayers, our feet are together. Because we're like angels with one leg. We know what our purpose is and we're able to do it. That line at the beginning, God, open my mouth and cause my lips to praise you. The idea of the Amidah is we are empty. As we're praying, God is praying through our mouth and we get to hear what God says. What do you say when you wrap your tefillin? Part of what you say is Hosea, Varastik li be'amunah. Do you say that part?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I betroth you to me in loving kindness. I betroth you to me forever, right?
Yeah.
That is our wedding ring with God. If you're married, that's not a partnership. If you don't realize getting married is a partnership, the 3 of us have to have a little talk. Okay? Right? It's a partnership. These terms that if you go and study, I'm learning about Kabbalah, and there's 4 worlds. Well, they correspond to the 4 letters of the name. And the image that we teach is that of a glass blower. Ever seen a glass blown, like little blown glass animals? Okay, so here's my little blown glass elephant. I'm not very good at it, sorry. That's the world of purely physical. The bottom head. When it's still attached to the glass, right, and it's being formed at the bottom, it's still, that's the Yetzirah, the Vav. When it's just the glass, it's Bria, it's trying to create it. When it's Atzilut, emanation, is when my air starts to go through the glass. Because now we're looking at the glass blower more. And Adam Kadmon, that hidden part, that Torah part that we have, is my thought inside, my intention. I want to make a blown glass elephant. So how does that work? I want to make a blown glass elephant. I take the glass, I start blowing, I create it that way, I form it that way, and then I separate it, and it's on its own. That's the image. And that's not just in Judaism. Kabir says, I believe it's Kabir, says, fall toward the glass blower's breath. Sufi mystic. the same thing.
Mm.
Rumi makes analogies to that. But it comes from the 4-letter name. Does that make sense to everyone?
Mhm.
Okay. Kind of cool, huh?
Yeah.
Framing uses new stuff.
Yeah.
All right?
Not like this.
But doesn't it make more sense if you explain, if we understand? Okay, now we're going to do a little Hisbodedus. Now, I'm going to do some erasing.
Question, Rabbi.
Yes, sir. Well, I'm fixing my thing.
Why is Kabbalah based on the God's name of Adonai and not his other names that he has?
Because he says that's his name. And there are other names. It's not Kabbalah, but Jewish mysticism. There are other names that we use. But when it says that we're made with Selim Hashem, when we're made in the image of God, this is what it's talking about. This is why in Zechariah that we say in the Elenu, on this day, God will be one, God's name will be one. When I am thinking in partnership with God, giving and receiving in partnership with God, feeling in partnership with God, and walking through the world in partnership with God, that's the day. On that day, God's name will be one. So whenever you hear the idea of Shmo, his name, this is what we're referring to. One of the things we learned through but here is when you really start analyzing letters, pretty much everything can get translated as one God's name. So I'm going to erase this right now. And we didn't do any breathing last time, did we?
No.
Okay, good. I'm just making sure. Okay. Take off your watches, take off your glasses. This is hard if you were at home. So for a moment, uncross your legs, right? So your hands be. For a moment, just relax. Imagine that you are not breathing, rather God is blowing a breath into you. When we are born, God blows the nishmat chaim, the breath of life, into us. And then when we die, God takes it from us in a moment between his mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. So relax and find that place. That you're not breathing, you're being breathed. Now, as you find that place, I want you to find the moment where the breath becomes yours. You exhale, and we know it's your breath. If I just had garlic pizza, everyone knows that, right? It's my breath. But at what point is your being inhaled? Is your being blown in like a balloon, just receiving? At what point does the breath become yours? And when you think you found the moment, to find the microsecond. We think you found the microsecond, find the millisecond. Smaller, moment. Infinitesimally small moment. Where a tree, a plant, a seed is not a seed, either is it a plant or a tree yet. Just allow yourself to be breathed. Just receive. You think you found the moment. Open your eyes. How much more aware are you of sound, of perception? I'm whispering right now. I'm not sure it's being caught on video, but you can all hear me really clearly. Okay. Go back to just being breathed. I want you to listen to my voice for a moment. When God blows into you, I'd like you for a moment to count as you inhale to a count of 4. And you're going to exhale to a count of 4. And then you're going to hold your breath with your lungs empty to a count of 4. Nice and slow. So we're going to inhale. 2. Inhale through your nose. Exhale. 2. 3. Exhale through your mouth. Now hold it with your lungs empty. Inhale. Exhale through your mouth. Open your eyes. Look straight ahead. For how many of you is your peripheral vision increased or your awareness of sound increased? How much? And let's put it in perspective. If we can be 10% more aware, that's the difference between someone throwing a 90-mile-an-hour fastball and a 99-mile-an-hour fastball. It's the difference between running a 40-yard dash or a 4-second 40-yard dash. It's between a 9-second 100 meters and a 9.9 second. It's the difference between high school and Olympics. Right? And think how much more aware you are of every sound, every movement, just from those few breaths. Now, comments, feedback. Excuse me, I just need to see it. Please, God forbid.
You know, if you have to text it in.
Yeah.
With questions.
Oh, no, that's why I just need to say something secret.
Well, before every final or every exam, we always just sit in 5 minutes and breathe for the exam. So you're in a lot quicker in the calm state, in the parasympathetic nervous system versus the sympathetic, because you're not supposed to be thinking of the sympathetic.
Athletes should never be at 100%. They should be at 85%.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're too tight and they will never peak perform. My dissertation was on spirituality and peak performance. So, other comments? How'd that feel?
I realize the importance of it for everybody, because most people don't have profound breath or deep breath. A lot of people have shallow breathing, especially if you have a lot of stress in your life. And the deep breathing is so important. It's God's breath of life into you, and that you give oxygen to your cells and to your brain, and it gives such a sense of calm. Like I could feel the cortisol like going down in my body, and just relaxation. Is people forget those things.
Ken Ravizza, who is an old friend, is deceased now. Ken was the first guy, I believe, in the country to get a doctorate in sports psychology. He worked with everyone at A-Rod, he worked with every team. He was faculty at Cal State Fullerton, and Ken did a lot of work on peak performance in athletes, and beyond just athletes. And so he was at, I think it was the University of Virginia. It was the first university that was doing live open heart transplants. I think it was Virginia. And he's talking about how do you prepare, and these little nebbishy Jewish guys are saying, well, we'll get big. Now, Ken works with professional athletes, and he's thinking these little wimps get big. And then he sees them as they're walking into the operating room. And these little guys are like this. And they start breathing from the lower lobes of their lungs, and they get big. Right? And that increases our awareness, our ability, our conscious connection. Other comments?
Felt light. Felt like I was floating.
How many have problems with holding the breath with your lungs empty? Some people get scared. If you surrender, it's exactly what it feels like. For me, at least, it feels like floating. Some people who get scared will get scared because they're not breathing. Most people, if you ask them to hold their breath, they will go like this. But if you've ever been with someone who's dying or newborns, how do they breathe?
Yes.
And they hold it with their lungs empty, don't they?
Yeah. Listen here.
And
There's a question over here. People use cannabis to do yoga. What is said about cannabis to study Kabbalah?
we don't need plants. Okay. That's the simplest answer. I'm not saying there's not validity to certain plants at certain times. And that's a whole other teaching from other traditions. In our tradition, we don't use plants. And most other native traditions that do use plants, I was very close with and some of Valencia, who was the chief of the Yaqui Indians. And, he could use anything, but the point was you don't need that. And so you can achieve the same thing without that path. In many indigenous cultural worlds, what they will talk about is that is called the green road, but it's a way of using as a teacher. Certain plants have certain energies and they deal with certain things, as opposed to doing the work and actually having the experience that you hone that way. Not putting down plants, or I can count on one hand how many times I try to join. I went to school at Berkeley. Okay, so but the issue is that you don't need the plant, and we need to surrender. Yes.
You told us before.
That doesn't mean I'm judging anyone for doing whatever they do, by the way.
You told us before, and Joel's encouraged me to. I had trouble sleeping. I think I told you this before. I went into that triangular breathing,
Just do the triangle breathing.
and I went out like that.
So I want to show you something. You're gonna love this.
Excuse me.
Let's see. All right. So let's just look at this for a minute. Okay. When I am inhaling, let's do it. When I am inhaling, okay, right? God is exhaling, right? When I'm exhaling, you love this now. God is inhaling. When I'm holding, God is holding. Which means when I'm really in sync, that I'm in partnership with God, my breath and God's breath are all together. And what do we have?
Start David.
Magen David.
Yeah.
Now, Magen David. What does that mean? What does Magen David mean?
Shield.
Shield.
Shield of David.
Right.
Because David is always shielded because he's always in partnership with God and is aware. Remember, David's a great singer, right? He's very aware of his breath. That's why it's in Magen David, the shield of David. Does that make sense to everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Because our breath becomes in sync and we realize and aware of our partnership, of our intimacy. This term called Yokud, which is the same term that is used to describe what a husband and wife do on their wedding night.
Huh.
And that doesn't mean watch Oprah. Okay? It's literally what it means. So right there, we have hidden in plain sight, don't we?
Everything in plain sight.
Now, I'll give just another example. We're not going to go through the whole meditation we made next week. You guys want to do another one? I've been asked to do a series of classes on meditation and mysticism, which I love doing. And used to teach for University of Judaism and American Jewish University. I just don't have time for the last number of years. The Shema, right? Try and do this just with this writing. How many of us know the Shema? Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, but it's not really Adonai, it's Yud Hey Vav and Hey, right? Now when the Shema is said, it's said to all the people, to Israel, right? So if I'm saying the Shema for myself, my name is David, my name is Moshe Yisrael, and God's talking to me, God's not going to say Shema Yisrael. He's going to say Shema Moshe Yisrael. My name is David. Shema David, right? Does that make sense? Because the words literally mean Shema, listen, Yisrael, you people of Israel. Adonai, the God inside you, Eloheinu, the God outside you, it's for all of you. These are Adonai Echad, these are one. With me? Okay. So, Shema is the first word, right? Second word is the name. Your name, sorry, not the name. If it's a personal, if we're praying as a group, it's Yisrael because we're all part of Yisrael. But if it's just a personal, it's your name. It's not actually Adonai. That's not what the word is. The word is Yud, Hey, Vav, and Hey. Now, there are meditations. You'll find some wonderful. The 21st Yokud is a beautiful meditation, but which may go over if we do more of this. But certainly when we do the meditation in this is a class. But Yud, Hey is basically just, they're both silent letters. They're both soft letters. So it's just a breath. More. And Vav Hey, Vav is not pronounced to be, it's pronounced Davi would be. So if God's talking to you individually, God's not going to, if I'm talking to God, if it's a one-on-one, it wouldn't be Eloheinu, which means our God. It would be the word for my God, right? So, Adonai, or Yah, Wah, Yeah, Chad. Now, split all the syllables, right? I inhale on Shema, I exhale on the name. I inhale on Yah, exhale on Wah, inhale on Hello, exhale on Hi, inhale on Yah, exhale on Wah, inhale on exhale on Chad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Going back. 1, Sphira, right? 10. So you see before I pray, when I put on my talit, you see me, anyone ever watched me put on my talit? I actually wrap myself in it. It's not a show. I say the Shema, among other things. But I say it as an individual. So the Shema, which is a group meditation, is also an individual meditation. I just want to show you Israel. So literally, I'll just. See the difference? That quickly to center yourself. It's right there, isn't it? It's right there. Another piece, it's right there. Just trying to figure out if I want to do something or not. We'll figure it out. Another piece that's right there. We talked about this the first week. The silence. It's not Dr. Who's term. Silence. God's name. The only silent letter in Hebrew is Aleph. Because in ancient Hebrew, Ayin was pronounced as what? So the only silent letter in Hebrew is Aleph. Okay? That Aleph can be split into a Vav and 2 Yods. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so everyone see that? All right. The numerical value for Yod is 10. The numerical value for Vav is 6. The numerical value of Yod is 10, which means that Aleph, actually, this is from Bahir, equals 26. The name of God, Yud He, right? Vav and He, 10 plus 5 plus 6 plus 5 equals 26. We find God's name in an Aleph, in the silence. And so we have a whole meditation, many meditations, about having an Aleph and walking the Aleph as if it's a pathway into the hallways of God. This is part of what's in our tradition, and it's right there. Okay? There's a meditation for each of taking God's name. It's called the 21st Yokud. And it's a meditation where it comes from, I forget if it's Abalafi, I think, or Cordovero. So one of the two, I think. But it's this whole meditation where we take each of those 10 energy centers. We use God's name with a different vowel on each one of them. So one time we use it with the vowel O, and one A, and one E, and one A, and one E, O, U. So you want Yay, and doing that kind of thing. As I said, we do start doing a class of 6 or 8 weeks of just meditation and mysticism. We'll actually do that for now. But I want you to understand how important it is. Now we're going to do something a little different because we're going to get the time. So, clear off everything in front of you. Move these books. Clear everything off so you've got space in front of you, please. If you're at home, get a napkin. Take a couple of napkins, please. Take a few napkins and pass it around. And take an orange and pass it around. Okay. If you're at home watching this, I make no guarantees that this is how this is going to be for you at home, but I'd like you to take an orange, clear off everything in front of you. Space, take a couple of napkins so you can lay it out in front of you. Let's put a napkin out. What do you guys think of this stuff so far?
Fascinating.
Wonderful.
Fascinating.
And we're going to do this quickly for the sake of time. I've done this where it takes well over an hour and a half to do. Okay. First thing to do is take your orange. And please take a little plastic piece off your orange because that doesn't really belong there. That came from Rouse. Okay. So for a moment, start to breathe in terms of being breathed. God is not inhaling. God is not exhaling. God is blowing. You know, Elena, can we turn that light out? Is that okay? Thank you so much. Yeah. Imagine you're being breathed. You're not breathing. Now look at the orange. Hold in your hand. Now really look at it. Little dimples it has. Do we need to pull the mic closer to me, Orlando? Do we need to pull the mic closer, microphone closer to me? That's probably That's probably a good idea. Okay. That's probably a little better. Okay. So look at the orange in your hand. But don't just glance at it, look at it. Look at the greens, the yellows, the different colors of orange. The navel that might be a little open, a lot open, or not at all. The dimples, the blemishes. Look at one part of it. And then close your eye, and your mind's eye see that one part of the peel of the orange or the outside. And then open your eyes and see if you were right, or where were you right, where were you wrong. As you're doing that, feel it with your hand. So you turn it around from all different angles and find every shape, how it's flat in some places, and shiny in some places. And close your eyes and see if you can see that image in your mind's eye. And then look down again and see if you are seeing correctly or need to adapt. Look at every part of this orange. You know, this orange has been through hundreds or thousands of hands to get to you. From the people who originally planted the tree, harvested the tree, people who planted, who tended it, pruned it, and harvested and collected the fruit. The truckers, the people that shipped it, the people who received it in the market, the people who sorted it. Hundreds or more hands going back who knows how many decades to get to you right now. The culmination of this orange's existence is in your hands. Its whole life and decades and all the work all these people did is manifest in this orange that is in your hands right now. And breathe deeply and relax your lower back and relax your throat and relax your anus. Relax your legs, make sure they're uncrossed. Open yourself up. Really breathe and look at this beautiful orange that was created just for you, for this moment. See every angle of it. Close your eyes, and do you still see every angle as you are circling it in your hands, where you're touching? Do you know what it looks like in your mind's eye? And then open your eyes and see, oh yeah, that is where that green was, or that dimple was. Every breath. Like you're breathing into the orange, and the orange is breathing into you. Notice all the little perfect imperfections. Every color, every shape. How it's engraved with little dimples. Some parts of it seem more colorful than other parts, less colorful. And close your eyes and breathe and see if you can see it floating in your mind's eye. Can you see this orange? Breathe into it. Breathe and really see each color. Oh, didn't notice that little scratch. Oh, didn't notice that little color. See every one of it. This orange exists just for you, for no one else. And close your mind's eye. Close your eyes and see in your mind's eye every color, every dimple, every shape. So much so that if we put all the oranges back in a box, could you find this orange? Would you recognize your orange? Look in your mind's eye so you could see it and you'd recognize this orange anywhere. The way you would your own hand or your family. The way you would your lover, your spouse, your child, your parent. Breathe in. Look at the orange and pick one little part. Very slowly. Just puncture the orange. Peel. Just pull back just a little bit. Just a little bit. And look how the outside of the peel corresponds to the inside of the peel, which corresponds to the white part. Smell it. Feel it. And then close it back up, and in your mind's eye, see the orange floating and see that one little piece coming out. Very, very slow. Listen as you pull just a little peel back. Just so you can hear it. Look at it and put the peel back onto the orange so it's back clothed. And then you take the clothing off of it to reveal, you start to reveal it. So very slowly, start to peel it. Look how it's some places it's easy, some places it's harder. See how the peel's starting to fall off, and then close the peel back on the fruit. Close your eyes, see it floating in your mind's eye. As you take off the peel slowly. In your mind's eye and in your hand, and then look in your hand again. Take a little bit more. Slowly, just teasing as it comes off gently. Some of it comes off easily, some of it you end up having to dig into the fruit and the juice squirts out, and some of it just comes off and breaks, and some of it has the white and some of it has the orange. Peel it very slowly. As you see it partially peeled, then close it back up. In your mind's eye, see it floating there. Breathe. See, look at this orange whose very existence culminates right now in this moment. As you unpeel the orange slowly. See it in your mind's eye and see it in the fruit as you can hear every little piece separating from itself. As you get to one of the two ends where the navel is or the other end, how it comes apart or doesn't, and then put the peel back on slowly. So it's all covered. And in your mind's eye, see it that way and see the pieces coming off and being taken off. Look how the peel corresponds to the fruit underneath. hearing it, smelling it. It's a unique smell, isn't it? To allow ourselves to be peeled. Taking it off and periodically just closing your eyes, seeing that orange. We put the oranges back together, put them in a basket. Would you know yours? It is your orange. It is for you in this moment. All of its creation is for you. Breathe. Relax your stomach. Relax your lower back. And your throats. Breathe. Very slowly. Take all the peel off the orange. Slowly do it in your mind's eye as well. Back and forth between what's in your hand and what you see in your eye. Just slowly take all the peel off. How it comes apart. In some part you just see orange fruit, and some you see the white stuff. How some of the peels break and some do not. And how the orange there naked in front of you, looking at it. Where did that piece of peel, where did that go? How did it correspond to this part or to that part? How does it fit it? You put the peel back on and you undress it. You look in your mind's eye and you see it there in the peel floating, and you see the peel coming off. So you see that happening, the orange floating there, revealed, vulnerable. And look at your orange without any of the peel, and look at it in your mind's eye, both with the peel and without. And look at it and enter it and split very slowly into a section, and separate section by section. Now, some sections come off, and others, the pustules of the juice, stay together. And then bring it back together and put it back in your peel in your mind's eye. See it there. Taking the peel off. Floating. Relax your body. Breathe. And starting to section it in your mind's eye as you start to section it. And lay out those sections in front of you. How each section is entirely different. Smell it. Lick it. Feel it. Look at the peel. Smell the outside. Smell the inside. Lick it. Taste it. Feel it. Smell it. Each section being entirely unique in a world of multiple duplicities and duplications. Each section of your orange is unique and just for you. As you start to lay out the sections and then put them back together. Put it in the back in the peel, and in your mind's eye, see that orange floating there and the peel coming off as it floats in front of you in space, and see the peeling coming off and the white on the outside of the fruit and the orange. And as you start to section it, the juice coming out, the sound, the smell. As you lay out every section. Some it's so easy, some so difficult. They're different sizes. You might have one that has small little sections on the inside, little baby sections. Separate each section. Some come apart, some break apart. Look at it. Really look at it. Some of the juice is revealed, and some the container, the balloon that holds the juice, stays, holds it in. Until you looked at every piece, and every piece is in front of you. Look at them all. Unique, they all are. Each one its own little universe, and yet they're connected. And if you look at them now and look in your mind's eye, putting those pieces of the fruit back together till it's a solid fruit, and then putting the peel back on it, floating in your eye, your mind's eye, and then your mind's eye taking the peel slowly and gently, consciously opening up that peel, and open yourself up to it, and breathe and feel as you see it in your mind's eye opening up, the peel being removed, with the fruit slowly, section by section, down at your fruit. Can you see each section? We put all the sections of your fruit with all everybody else's sections. Would you recognize your pieces of fruit? They have been created through all of eternity just for you in this moment. So look at the fruit inside. When you're ready, I want you to say slowly, take just a piece. Say, Baruch atah Adonai Melech borei pri ha'etz. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, who creates this fruit from the tree. Look at a piece and really look at it. Remember where it goes, but go back into your mind's eye and remember where it comes from in the orange. What was around it in the peel, and look at it and very slowly lick it, smell it, rub it around your mouth, feel it. Slowly take a bite of it. Feel the pistules of juice opening up and nourishing you in that way, and feel every part of it. As you're doing that, see it come back together in your mind's eye as an orange. See it come back as an orange and peel and then unpeel it in your mind's eye. Can you see the pieces coming back together in your mind's eye, and seeing the fruit with its peel? Can you undress the peel off of it and see the fruit vulnerable there, opening up, having each piece? Have a bite of your orange. For the sake of time, we've done this relatively quickly, as I say. I've done this a lot longer at times. But first of all, what do you think of this? How's your orange?
Best orange I've ever tasted in my life.
How many of you agree with that?
Yeah, it's incredible.
We spent basically half an hour on orange.
It's so good.
It's really good, right?
Okay, now you want to hear a great thing?
Yeah.
You guys didn't really open yourself. I want you to reach over with everyone's permission, and I want you to take a piece of orange from the person on your right.
This is not-
Carolyn, you can come. He didn't want to open yet. He's very shy. Here, no, I'm taking his. You get to take a piece from mine. No, just reach over and take. No, I'll just reach over and take a piece.
Okay.
Come, Carolyn, come take one of my pieces. Now, I want you to take a bite of their orange.
Thank you.
Mine was better.
I know how it could be, because yours is not that good. It's kind of dry. And I like mine better. What about you?
I have a personal relationship with this one. This one.
And that's the magic line.
Mine forever.
Oh my God.
There's a difference, isn't there? But our orange, we develop a relationship, and so we love it that much more. So we go and we say, "Up, let's just eat," and we eat an orange. What do you guys think about this? How do you feel?
I love it.
I relaxed.
It's
That's
so good
relaxing.
to go
Unlike orange.
deeply into
Oh, no?
the senses. Deep
Mine
into
is
the
relaxing.
senses.
The-
Smell,
That's on the
taste,
form in front of
feel.
my face.
So Carolyn just said a great thing. Carolyn just said a great thing. Carolyn just said all of her senses. And that's why an orange is so good for this, because you see it, you hear it, right? As you're taking off the peel and the sections, you smell it, you feel it, and you taste it. So it actually hits all of our senses. Russ, what do you think?
It's fantastic. Absolutely wonderful.
Trying to lose weight here, Rabbi. Now I'm gonna start craving all this food. And
No, the point is that you eat food and you just take the prana from it. You really take that. What happened?
We've elevated the.
He said, it's 10 p.m. in Idaho and we're about to get some oranges.
Where is it?
And we're elevating
Idaho.
the food that we eat.
We are elevating ourselves and our relationship. Because we're elevating ourselves and our relationship, we're increasing our awareness. Therefore, we are, just like when we're doing just the breathing or anything else, every moment is a moment of mysticism in Judaism. Every moment's a potential moment of unifying with God. Everything we do. Pretty intense? For how many of you is this the best orange you've ever had?
Hands down.
Right?
It was really good.
Hands down.
My mouth was watering. I was like smelling it. I was like ready for it.
Smelling it. I didn't know it.
That's
I didn't know we were supposed to feel it. In my head, I was trying to feel
That's me too. But
it. I could smell it.
You know, Rabbi.
It smells okay.
This is my second class,
All right, go. Let's go.
and for me, what I'm sensing is I need to slow down. I'm going way too fast in life, and this lesson about the orange was more like, okay, I would get the orange, wash it, peel it, cut it, eat it, but I didn't appreciate it. I didn't get to acknowledge its existence. I didn't thank anyone for it. I didn't thank God for it. And it's a way of telling myself that I need to slow down in life. I'm going way too fast. I'm not smelling the roses.
They're there.
Hidden in plain sight.
And you know how
Hidden in plain sight.
And I was telling you last week that why is it so complicated? And you're like, it's not complicated. It's because I'm in fifth gear when I can be in first gear and get there in the same amount of time. I'm going too fast in life.
And you're missing
Yeah.
which way? Yes.
There's another comment from that. I'm 52 years old and I've never wanted an orange.
That's right, Dan. In California, there's a term for this. We call it orange porn. Because it's truly sensual. It's all of our senses really connecting with it. And it's so beautiful. And we don't spend the time to, it's not about just smelling the roses, but it's the difference between a guy who puts on different, prayer, done. Who cares?
So,
As opposed to, go ahead and then I want to share a story about this.
so really what you're saying also about the Shema, all of us, when we rip right through it, we're missing the elements of it.
We might catch it by accident, or we might catch it because of God's grace, but we miss a lot. There's a story about the greatness of Rabbi Hillel in the Talmud. Masechta Shabbat, I think. The story goes like, I think we actually even looked at it when we studied Talmud a little bit, right? That Hillel is taking a bath, and then he's interrupted, he's preparing for Shabbat,
Oh, yeah.
right? And these guys have a bet that they can make Hillel angry. Someone knocks on the door, puts on his robe, he comes out, he goes, he's saying, is there Hillel here? Is there Hillel here? Hillel says, I'm here. Say, I have a question to ask. Okay, ask my son. He said, Sam, ask my son, ask. And the man says, why are the feet of the Africans so wide? He said, well, it's an order, it's a very profound question you ask my son, is so they can walk in swamplands. Thank you, Hillel. He goes back, he gets all naked again, he goes back in his bathtub, starts shampooing his hair, knock on the door, is there Hillel here? Is there Hillel here? He's preparing for Shabbos. Gets up, puts it on, gets his cloak on, goes down there. Why? I have a question to ask. Yes, my son asked, why are the heads of the Babylonians so round? That's a truly profound question you ask, my son. It's because their midwives do not have very great skill. in, gets off his cloak, gets back in his bath, starts shampooing again. Is there Hillel here? Is there Hillel here? He comes back down. I have a question to ask. Ask my son. Ask, why are the eyes of the Talmudians so round? That is truly a profound question to ask. It is so that they can see in their deserts. Okay? And they ask these kind of questions. He never gets irritated. He takes the time out for what's important. Malcolm did. He says, I'm scared to ask you questions. Are you the Hillel? And he sits down. This is before Shabbat. He sits down and goes, ask. Shabbat, you know, and I says, you the Hillel? And they say yes. And he goes, you know, may there not be more like you, because on your account I just lost 400 zoos. Because he'd made a bet that he could make Hillel angry. He started this at one point and said, and he says, you know, better you should lose 400 zoos and 400 zoos more than I should lose my temper and my patience and my. And really, it's about the relationship with another human being. You know how we talked when we're studying Kings and we're studying about Solomon, the wisdom of how he treats his servants. You know, one of the things that's hard sometimes to teach children is you're not above anything. None of us are. It's only by humbling ourselves, by taking the time to be with people, time to notice the gifts of God, that we can start to really understand Yokud in a different way. So you can read about it in a book by Gershom Scholem all day. Okay. But do you experience that? And that's what happens when we do this. Any comments or questions on anything? So what I would suggest is everyone to try that personal triangle breathing. We do know neuroscientists have kind of demonstrated if you twice a day do 12 minutes of conscious meditation, it will change your whole being. So I really want to recommend a little timer in doing that. It's worth the 12 minutes. And if you fall asleep, it's fine. So?
Extends the telomeres, reverse the aging process.
Yeah.
It, even like alcoholics, they say it rebuilds the gray matter in the brain. I mean, it just does so much.
There's a research program I actually was part of. They called me in to be part of the University of Miami, and the FDA did a research program that was run by Dr. Deborah Mash. It was at St. Kitts Island, where they were taking a hallucinogen, psychotropic, called Ibogaine, which is the alkaloid from the Iboga plant in Africa. They were giving it to heroin addicts, and it was, you know, a 12, 18-hour trip. And then they would have no DTs, no withdrawals or anything else. And it's called the Ibogaine Project. And they brought me down a couple times to teach meditation to the clients going through it. And it when we cleanse our Ibogaine actually cleansed the neuroreceptor of the opiate. But we can do it, as you say, this is right here. Right? It's right here. In our way, in our tradition. So we're going to get a little bit less out there next week, but drive safely, because we're not going to be doing Kabbalah next week. But do you understand also now why I say it's Jewish mysticism? Not when someone says, oh, Kabbalah, and you did some reading. We don't want dogma. How do you explain what you just experienced with an orange? You had a one-on-one, personal, intimate relationship with an orange. Go tell that to somebody, you know, and see how they want to lock you up, right? Because you breathed into it, you took your time, you used all of your senses. That's what Hisbodedus does. What Hisbodedus does. So Rabbi Nachman taught meditation is the greatest medicine because anyone can do it, everyone can do it. There are no limitations. There just aren't. And so I really recommend that book, Jewish Meditation. It's a fabulous first book. It goes into some deep meditations. Meditation Kabbalah has some wonderful things. The other books are really studying about what the experiences are through the framework to get the path. So, good? Thumbs up? Double thumbs up?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
I will see you God willing Friday night for Shabbat.
Got it.
Register for holidays, and I'll see you God willing next Friday, or on Friday night, and then a week from tonight. So thank you guys so much.
I convinced, Shannon, how we played Josh, I convinced her to